It was a request to me at about 3 o'clock this afternoon if I could facilitate the meeting. Some of the family members were here, and it accommodated that. Certainly it was done with the full permission of the family.
What's the legislation?
INS. I'm not able to give you that.
Is it your understanding that the psychiatrists are flying back today and they will not meet again with anybody tomorrow?
Hello?
I don't know what will happen tomorrow. They will be flying back to Washington this evening.
And whose request was the meeting scheduled here, sir?
The chief of the INS office here in Miami, Robert Wallace.
Did Monty Iglesias have any contact with any psychologist or government?
All right, you're listening right now to Edward Rosasco. He is the CEO of Mercy Hospital, talking again about the meeting today between 3 federally appointed physicians, 3 psychologists, and the South Florida family of Elián González. He says the meeting took about an hour. He does not know exactly what it was about. He hoped it was productive. He did not see Elián, and that he says the physicians are flying back to Washington tonight.
Let's turn to Bob Soper now with the weather, and please bring some rain.
Well, we're going to try. In the next couple of days, we're going to look at a cold front coming out of the Midwest and could change our weather. Meanwhile, take a look at what we have. It's dry, 74 degrees in Miami and Key West, 76 in Fort Lauderdale, 55% relative humidity, winds east at 10, gusting as high as 31 miles per hour today, and no rainfall, of course. Real-time radar, very quiet, just continuing high and dry, and all we've seen is some puffy cumulus clouds over the state today, and everybody's been dry. A little bit of cloud cover over the Gulf of Mexico, but I don't think that's going to get to us at all. Tonight, more or less easterly winds, and they're going to continue through tomorrow with high pressure, the dominant feature, until that cold front comes to move it out. And here's what it's causing. That whole system has caused as much as a foot of snow in parts of North Dakota, stretching as snow across the northern half of Minnesota, then turning into thunderstorms in southern parts of Iowa, and some snow around Chicago for rush hour, and pretty good snowfall inland parts of New York. Yesterday, 2 feet of snow in higher elevations up in Vermont, but it's 53 degrees right now at New York City. The southeast is fairly quiet, a few showers around Mississippi, but the heavy weather is right now to the north. But that's the front you saw over my shoulder. Clouds breaking up for us tonight. Breezy near the ocean, 65 inland, 70 on the coast. Tomorrow, more sunshine, close to normal temperatures, high about 81. Small craft use caution out there. Winds up to 20 knots out of the east, seas up to 8 feet in the Gulf Stream Bay waters. Choppy. Partly sunny Wednesday. Rain's a little more likely. I wouldn't put all my money on Thursday, but Friday looks good for rain and storms around, and Saturday could continue with sun and showers. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Bob. Some Fort Lauderdale doctors who perform surgery in their offices may be going to court to fight some new guidelines.
The Florida Board of Medicine is now requiring those doctors to meet the same standards as hospitals and surgery centers. Now, the doctors group say the new rules are too restrictive, but the state disagrees. They say at least 39 cosmetic surgery patients alone have died during minor in-house procedures during the last 14 years.
Coming up on CBS 4 Sports, deja vu for the Miami Heat against the Knicks.
A thrilling finish this time gave the Heat the upper hand and, of course, the victory. CBS 4 will be right back.
Kathy Lee talks to E.T. about her son Cody's decision to sue a tabloid. Then, Mission Impossible 2, the new website, and how you can become a secret agent like Tom Cruise. Next, E.T.
Weeknights at 7 on CBS 4.
Listen. 2 great offers are now available on the 2000 Lincoln Town Car. Lease Town Car for $0 down at only $519 a month for 36 months with just $519 cash to its signing. Or get an impressive $1,500 cash back. Hurry, this offer ends soon. See your Florida Lincoln dealer today.
There's really no secret to a great lawn, just little TLC. Grow, baby, grow.
Oh, look at this.
Garden tools, mowers. Walmart just makes it easy to be a gardener.
These are really great. This is a great price, too.
When you're working in the yard, your wife always knows where you are. If you get in trouble, you can always bring her a nice bunch of flowers, and it's love all over again.
I've got to have one of these.
And I don't have to go to 4 or 5 places. I just go to Walmart.
Everything you need for your lawn and garden, always at Walmart.
Stick them in the ground and give them a little love, and they grow.
Unexpected guests? Stanley Steamer gets out the toughest spots and odors.
Clean 3 areas in a hall for $99.
Stanley Steamer. Tough on dirt, gentle on carpet.
More water than you can handle? Call Stanley Steamer for convenient 24-hour emergency water extraction service.
Ooh, Stanley Steamer. Tough on dirt, gentle on carpet.
CBS 4 Sports is sponsored by Stanley Steamer. Tough on dirt, gentle on carpet.
It was almost like deja vu this weekend, but with a good outcome this time.
Don't you just love revenge?
Yes.
Payback is wonderful. For the Heat yesterday, you're right, Jen, it was deja vu in reverse. Last year, the Knicks crushed the Heat with a last-second shot. This time, Tim Hardaway's miraculous heave gives the Heat some payback against the Knicks. Yeah! Ain't it wonderful? On the right, it's Allen Houston's dagger, which last year sent the Heat home in the playoffs. On the left, Hardaway's heave, which deflated the Knicks yesterday. Moments like this help define the best rivalry in the NBA.
It was a wonderful experience out there tonight, just like it was for them last year when they bounced it in, but they bounced it in to move on into the second round. This is just moving us to Philadelphia tomorrow night, but it was just a great game. It was a great game.
And the Heat's Alonzo Mourning is having a great year. He edges out Patrick Ewing for NBA Player of the Week. Zoe yesterday carries the Heat with 33 points until Timmy became the hero. Well, for the Marlins, life on the road gets off to a chilly start. They try but fail to thaw out today in Milwaukee. 80 degrees here, a blustery 40 up there. That's why the Marlins look like Eskimos. In the second, Vladimir Nunez slaps one right through Milwaukee's Kevin Barker. Here comes Mike Old chugging in with the game's first run, but when the Brewers, Jeff Jenkins, up a bit later, swats one like a Tiger tee shot, this game is tied at 1. Now, in the third, Jeremy Burnett throws one that Kevin Millar just can't get a glove on. 2 more Brewers score. Marlins fall 4-3 in Milwaukee. Meantime, in Colorado, Junior makes history. For the Reds, Ken Griffey Jr. smacks his 400th career home run. Griffey, just a shade past 30, is the youngest to ever reach that plateau, and he does it on his dad's birthday. What timing. While he learned golf with his dad's clubs, his wife helped improve his putting. New Masters champ Vijay Singh knows success is a family thing. Tiger Woods yesterday made an early charge but then fell back on the back nine at Augusta. Nah, this day belonged to Vijay, the lanky and likable golfer from Fiji, winning his second major. Singh, after that great putt at 18, puts on the green blazer. It's kind of bright for my taste, but it sure feels right. And finally, who was that pretty lady that Tim Hardaway kissed after his winning shot? It was the mother-in-law of Heat owner Mickey Harrison. Aww. Hey, what did Tim Hardaway come over and say to you?
Well, he does. He gave me a kiss.
He did?
Yes, he always does.
Were you his good luck charm? Were you his good luck charm?
So he says.
It must have worked. And I'll bet you from now on she'll be at every Heat Knick game.
It's a sweaty kiss.
If it works, it works. You're right.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, still ahead, what airline is the friendliest in the friendly skies? The details next on the CBS Evening News.
Also at 6:30, searching for answers and taking action after more than a dozen soldiers are killed in a military plane crash.
You're watching CBS 4 News at 6, covering Surfside, Margate, Key Largo, and your South Florida neighborhood. We'll be right back.
It's your party. Why not make the best impression? El Dorado, your furniture store with same-day delivery.
Once in a while, a car comes along that's really worth pursuing. A car with features like an automatic transmission, alloy wheels, ABS, a security system, and more, all offered at a price that has proven to be very elusive. Of course, you have to see such a car. To not would be criminal. The Special Edition Accord from Honda. Now get special APR financing as low as 3.9% for 36 months on new 4-cylinder Accords.
Starting to feel a little cramped by your present surroundings? Maybe it's time to expand your horizons. Maybe it's time to think about RE/MAX. RE/MAX Associates lead the real estate industry, averaging more experience and more sales than other real estate agents. RE/MAX can help you find a new home that meets all your needs while selling your current house to someone who'll find it absolutely perfect. If you're looking for results, look for RE/MAX. Nobody sells more real estate.
At Coral Cadillac, the man who owns the store is running the store with a little bit of help.
Hurry up, Sissy. How come? We have lots of stuff to do. What are we doing? First, we have to thank Dad's new customer. Did you buy all the cars?
Don't miss Coral Cadillac's 25th anniversary clearance. Drastic price reductions. The dealer is in, and he wants them out.
Is it a deal, Dad?
Yep. At Coral Cadillac, the dealer is in, and he will be. or she will be.
Time to go home, boss.
For a long, long time.
It was late. The mate wasn't back on board yet. Where's our surfer dude?
Oh, he'll be back.
But the skipper had just the right bait. Gordon's new crunchy stuffed fillets. Hearty fillets coated with crunchy breadcrumbs and stuffed with broccoli and cheddar, 3 cheese or seafood stuffing. Like the skipper figured, the surfer dude made it back.
Hey, hope you saved me some. Left some awesome waves out there.
New crunchy stuffed fillets. Trust the name, trust the taste.
Trust the Gordon's fisherman.
Sushi, scrambled eggs, or gourmet dinner. For whatever whets your appetite, El Dorado has the quality casual set you'll love. El Dorado, your furniture store.
You're watching CBS 4 News at 6.
Remember, if you see news in the making, give us a call. In Miami-Dade, our hotline is 305-477-2444. In Broward, you can reach us at 954-463-NEWS. That's our news for now. Thank you for joining us.
I'll see you back here at 11 for CBS 4 News tonight. Now let's go to the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
Preparing for the handover. Miami relatives of Elián González meet with government-picked psychiatrists to decide how the boy will be returned to his father. The U.S. military grounds a controversial aircraft after a fatal crash. Families of the dead blame the Pentagon. And what's up with this country's airlines? Not customer satisfaction, that's for sure.
This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
And good evening. Dan is on assignment tonight. I'm John Roberts. It was a long, frustrating day for federal officials struggling to ease the Elián González custody battle toward a conclusion without a confrontation. CBS's Byron Pitts begins our coverage.
Today, a team of psychiatrists handpicked by the government arrived in Miami for what was supposed to have been the beginning of a smooth transition. 3-hour discussion between the therapist and Elián González's Miami relatives on how best to return the 6-year-old boy to his father.
The main thing is to talk and listen to each other.
But that meeting at Jackson Memorial never took place. Elián's great-uncle, Lázaro González, never showed up. Instead, he asked that the meeting be moved to another Miami hospital, where his daughter, Maris Laces, is being treated for exhaustion. After some discussion, the therapist boarded a van and headed for the new location to start the talks. It's the latest twist in a custody dispute that could end in confrontation on the streets of Miami.
We would hope that we would be able to set up something so that Elián will not have to be carried through a throng of people in Miami.
Therapists warned such a scene would only traumatize this boy a second time. Elián watched his mother drown. She and 10 others died when their boat collapsed on the journey from Cuba. His father, Juan Miguel González, arrived in the U.S. last week and made it clear he wants his son immediately. Tonight, a friendly family reunion does not look likely.
The transfer itself has to occur in a way which is not conflictual. That is, we know from previous research that the single most destructive aspect of children caught in these situations is the exposure to conflict among the adults who are in his world.
Tomorrow, Elián's Miami relatives are expected to receive a second letter from the government detailing when and where they must turn over the child. Meantime, his father will wait here in Maryland at the home of a Cuban diplomat. John?
Byron Pitts in Bethesda, thanks. Miami's Cuban exile community, so vocal for so long about keeping Elián González in this country, now seems to be reluctantly accepting the inevitable. CBS's Jeffrey Kaufman has that part of the story.
In the heart of Little Havana, indignation is giving way to resignation.
Oh no, we definitely know the outcome. I think people are now starting to feel that it's out of our control now, you know, and we feel really, really sad for that boy.
In a community where opinions are as strong as the coffee, it may finally be okay to disagree.
It's not a popular opinion, given the fact that I'm a Cuban person, Cuban born, but I believe that the kid belongs with his father.
At the González home a few blocks away, the crowd is smaller than it has been in recent weeks, the mood more somber.
I think the boy is going to be taken away no matter what we do. I mean, they have their mind set up and that boy have to go back to Cuba and they don't get anything else.
Many of the people here made the same perilous journey that Elián made with his mother. His return to Cuba is seen as a personal defeat. Lawyers for the Miami family continue to pursue appeals and court hearings.
Is the boy going to be with his father by the end of the week?
I hope not. I hope that he's going to stay here.
But University of Miami law professor Bernard Perlmutter says the Miami family has simply run out of legal options.
Be it the federal court or the family court, they really don't have a leg to stand on. They're going to lose in both forums.
Tonight, one more attempt by community leaders to show that they haven't given up. They've called for a vigil. The mayor of Miami told me he expects tens of thousands of people here, although it's not clear that many will show up. It's also not clear whether that vigil is an act of defiance or a farewell. John?
Jeffrey Kaufman in Little Havana, thanks. The U.S. military's controversial Osprey aircraft has long been under evaluation. Now it's under investigation. An Osprey designed to take off and land like a helicopter and fly like an airplane sank like a stone and crashed in Arizona on Saturday, killing all 19 Marines on board. National Security Correspondent David Martin has the latest on the Osprey investigation.
The Osprey lies where it fell, the charred bodies of 19 Marines still trapped inside, as investigators begin the task of figuring out why it suddenly plummeted from an altitude of 200 feet while coming in for a nighttime landing. One of the Osprey's chief advantages, that it can carry more troops than a helicopter, is now a horrible curse.
I know they have a job to do, but I would really like to see equipment be safe before they put people out on the line with them.
The Osprey, a tilt-rotor aircraft that can fly like an airplane and hover like a helicopter, was going through a final evaluation before the Marines decide whether to buy 360 of them to replace their existing fleet of helicopters. That evaluation is now suspended, and all other Ospreys, including one which was present at the crash, temporarily grounded while investigators search for the cause, a process that could take about a week. Unlike most combat aircraft, the Osprey is equipped with a flight data recorder. In addition, an F-18 circling overhead recorded the accident on its cockpit camera. Landing is the trickiest part of flying an Osprey, especially at night. And Pentagon officials say some eyewitness reports suggest the pilot became disoriented. Because of its unproven technology and its $44 million price tag, the Osprey has been a controversial aircraft. One distraught mother accused the Marines of using her son as a guinea pig.
During the Bush administration, the Pentagon tried to kill the Osprey program, but it was revived by the Clinton administration. Now the aircraft the Pentagon could not kill has ended up killing 19 Marines. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
When it comes to commercial airline travel, a new survey shows air passengers rated Southwest, Continental, Delta, Northwest, and Alaska Airlines highest in that order for overall quality. But as Bob Orr reports, no one's cheering about it, and customer complaints are still sky high.
1999 was such a bad year for airlines that even the winner lost. Top-ranked Southwest had fewer on-time arrivals and more customer complaints than the year before. The nation's largest airline, United, fared far worse. Of the 10 major carriers in the university's survey, United finished last, largely because it lost too many bags. But passengers don't need a survey to know that air travel can lead to horror stories.
This is a 7-page memoir of our experience on Sunday at the airport.
Airports are increasingly congested, planes more crowded, and then there's the problem of delays. The airlines blame most delays on air traffic tie-ups and bad weather.
1999 was the year in which we had the highest number of delays in the history of the airlines. And what happens when you have a high number of delays? You have a high number of complaints.
In fact, complaints more than doubled, up 130% in the survey. And there's more bad news. Delays for the first 2 months of this year are up again by more than 10%. That means lots of business for PassengerRights.com. Chad Ullery created the website for travelers to log in and file complaints with airlines and government regulators.
Today's traveler is usually frustrated, short on time and money, and is sick and tired of being taken advantage of by the airlines.
The airlines have promised to do better. Some have added more legroom, and all have vowed to be friendlier. But with delays already ahead of last year's record pace, there are renewed calls for Congress to step in and rein in an industry some see as out of control. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
You can find a good deal more about passenger problems and in-depth reporting on today's big stories by logging on to our CBS News website at cbs.com. Another dimension today to the story of irate travelers. Congressional investigators report African-American women passing through U.S. Customs on the way home from trips overseas are more likely than any other passengers to be strip searched or x-rayed. And the study found they were less likely than others to actually have contraband items. Coming up next on the CBS Evening News, calls for tighter regulation of the funeral industry. You'll hear some horror stories in a moment. And later, a new brand of terrorism aimed at a new kind of technology.
So, they've got this new golden dollar coin. I know what you're thinking. Why isn't George on it? Well, appearing on money isn't my only gig.
Less than 5 miles by land.
I'm president of my book club. 1, 2, 3, and I teach. And change. Anyway, the coin's totally cool without me.
Houston, we have a dollar.
Introducing the new golden dollar. It's changing the face of money.
Hey, change happens.
Why so many days-in hotels out there? So no matter where you're headed, you know you'll always get...
Kiss me?
A warm welcome. Days Inn. There you go.
Great meal. Uh-oh, gas pressure. What now? What else? Gas-X, with the most powerful medicine for fast relief. Nothing works faster. Hey, want to go for ice cream? Gas-X, the power to fight gas fast.
Here's your regular internet homepage, and here's i1.com. You use it like Yahoo, Lycos, or other search engines. Only i1.com gives away $10,000 every day, $1 million a month, and $10 million on tax day. Which one would you choose?
Oh, I see. Someone's supposed to struggle with this, right? So let's bring out the blonde.
Just doing research.
I'll pick the one with all of the cash.
i1.com.
Yeah.
Introducing i1.com. Why wouldn't you?
On the CBS Health Watch, a government advisory panel today recommended FDA approval for a new impotence drug called Uprima. Unlike Viagra, which works on blood flow, Uprima stimulates a brain chemical. Uprima's side effects may include fainting or nausea in some patients. The government keeps close tabs on the cost of living in this country. But what about the cost of dying? Congress got an earful today about rip-offs in the funeral industry. Chief Washington correspondent Bob Schieffer has our report.
It is the experience none of us wants, but most eventually face, burying a loved one. An experience sometimes made worse, senators were told today, by unscrupulous funeral operators who prey on grieving relatives. Although funerals cost more than ever, average price is more than $7,500. Investigating Senator Charles Grassley says the $12 billion funeral industry is poorly regulated, and the horror stories he heard today suggest why closer scrutiny may be needed. This one-time funeral operator testified by satellite from prison how high-pressure salesmen sometimes sell prepaid funerals by making old people feel guilty.
Do you want to leave this burden to your children to take care of when you're gone? Do you know how much it will cost when it's gone?
This witness told how an 81-year-old woman was talked into buying space in
a mausoleum, a bronze marker, all to the tune of $52,738.42.
That was just for starters. She eventually paid more than $132,000 to a salesman from this Florida cemetery. And the high-priced coffins and other gear don't always work. This woman broke down, telling how her grandmother's remains spilled out of a faulty coffin into a mausoleum.
I have no peaceful place to visit and memorialize my loved ones any longer. I will never forget nor reason away this atrocity.
An industry spokesman called the incidents isolated and reacted sharply.
We would have hoped that these hearings today would have been a little less biased than they were. I think it's very unfair the funeral service is being painted with this broad brush, which is just not true.
Whatever the case, Senator Grassley urges people to shop around, ask plenty of questions, and be very careful what you sign. Bob Schieffer, CBS News at the Capitol.
Another front in the battle over health insurance reform. A new study ordered up by President Clinton shows uninsured elderly Americans are paying 15% more for the same prescription drugs than those who are insured. That means the price gap has doubled in just the past 4 years. On the CBS Market Watch, a technology sell-off on Wall Street today drove the NASDAQ to its second biggest point loss ever, down 258 points, nearly 6%. The Dow Blue Chips went the other way, up 75 points. The Energy Department reported today that gasoline prices are down 2 cents in the past week to a nationwide average of $1.48 a gallon. Next up on the CBS Evening News, fighting a new import from Europe, eco-terrorism.
The CBS Evening News and tonight's Eye on America segment are sponsored by Aflac. Without it, no insurance is complete.
Well, when I got hurt and missed work, thought I had supplemental insurance.
Supplemental insurance? What's that?
Aflac. Well, even best insurance doesn't give you cash to cover things like lost pay, other expenses. This does.
What does?
Aflac. Should ask about it at work.
Really? And what's it called?
Aflac!
Aflac. Without it, no insurance is complete.
Aflac!
Why is it models always look 15? I don't like that.
Her? Please. She has another 20 years before she even has to think about wrinkles.
Right, and I'll look 30 years younger overnight.
At the Pond's Institute, we don't give you hype, we give you results. Our age-defying lotion with these 4 ingredients is proven to visibly reduce fine lines by up to 77%. Age-defying lotion from the Pond's Institute. No hype, just younger-looking skin.
Ordinary cat? Feed him ordinary cat food. Real tiger? Feed him the real meat in Friskies. It's the nutrition your cat naturally hungers for. Everything he needs to be his best. Friskies.
Lobster Fest has arrived. Our annual celebration of everything lobster. So don't hide. Escape to Red Lobster.
Meet the inspiration behind the truck. We thought of them when we gave it the most powerful V8 of any 4x4 pickup. We thought of them when we gave it a bigger extended cab than Ford F-150 or Dodge Ram. Maybe that's why Chevy Silverado owners think so highly of the truck. Now ranked most appealing full-sized pickup by J.D. Power & Associates. Silverado, it's the truck from Chevy.
Laws took effect in England and Scotland today, requiring labels on food products that have genetically modified ingredients. Many consumers and environmentalists in Britain and across Europe fiercely oppose genetic food research, and some have resorted to violence. As Wyatt Andrews found in a 2-part Eye on America investigation, that trend has now spread from the old world to the new.
New Year's Eve. Michigan State University, the glow in the night sky wasn't fireworks, it was arson in the agriculture building, and it was sabotage.
I think I was just in shock.
A terrorist group claimed it set the fire specifically to stop the work of Professor Catherine Ives, who studies genetically modified food.
I lost basically my entire professional life. I lost every paper I ever wrote, which analyzed the benefits and risks of this technology.
In fact, gene technology is under attack like never before. Protests like this one in England, called crop busting, where demonstrators yank the crops from the ground, have come to America. There have been 15 such protests in the last year, most of them at university test plots. Then came the arson.
To authorities, the fire at Michigan State represents a major escalation in the protest movement against genetically modified food. Here, for the first time, the group claiming responsibility is known for eco-terrorism.
That group, the Earth Liberation Front, is the same one that claimed the multi-million-dollar arson at the Vail Ski Resort in 1998, an anti-development protest. This year, the letters ELF were spray-painted after one crop busting at the University of Minnesota. Federal investigators say the violent Radical Green movement has a new mission.
It seems to me as if anybody who's engaged in genetic research is potentially a target.
Stephen Pfeiffer, a federal prosecutor in Oregon, is presenting evidence against the ELF to a federal grand jury. How significant is this threat?
Well, I think it's like any domestic terrorism threat that we have in the country today. Sooner or later, there will be human injury or perhaps loss of life if this continues.
I want to see these actions continue to increase.
Craig Rosebrough claims to speak for the Earth Liberation Front. A well-known Portland environmentalist, Rosebrough says he gets anonymous communications from the group but doesn't know the members. He confirms the ELF wants to sabotage genetic plant research.
It's not just Michigan State University, it's not just universities, it's each and every entity involved in genetically modifying organisms that's going to be targeted.
You think this is a legitimate protest?
Correct.
These fires were a good thing?
Correct.
That attitude baffles Professor Ives, who says her genetic research will help to increase food production in Africa.
Our program is set up to help poor people and poor farmers, and I find it difficult to find justification for trying to stop that kind of work.
So far, there have been no arrests, but federal agents are treating this as sophisticated terrorism. They believe the same organized radicals who use arson to protest animal testing and logging have found a new cause in gene-altered plants. In Lansing, Michigan, Wyatt Andrews for Eye on America. Tomorrow, we'll give you a closer look at the man who claims to speak for the eco-terrorists without being one of them. Coming up on tonight's CBS Evening News, Fidel Castro in a strange position, allied with Washington.
And good morning. Here's the news from Wall Street. Our global securities group reports of some concern in the equity market. If global monetary policy tightens enough to spark a rally in bonds, we're predicting the market could broaden away from investors' recent TMT favorites. The investment story in Asia appears to be changing for the better. An important part of that trend is the rapid financial and technological transformation that is taking place in Japan. In the U.S., we at Merrill Lynch expect continued strong...
ML.com, the smartest place to invest online.
Just a minute.
Poor baby. Wow, 125. I'll go download your homework.
The Microsoft Connected Learning Community. With internet software that connects, you'll never miss school. Sorry.
I just bought every overnight laxative I could find.
Why?
To prove nothing's gentler than Phillips Milk of Magnesia. X-Lax, Senecot, every one of these others contains stimulants. That one says on the label it may cause abdominal discomfort, faintness, and cramps. Phillips is the only one that's stimulant-free. Nothing's more effective, nothing's safer. Does that explain everything?
Yeah, except who's taking these back?
Phillips, safe, effective relief without stimulants. Buck's a mighty dog. Dogs his size live longer than larger dogs, so Buck gets Mighty Dog Senior, the perfect balance of nutrients and now more vitamin A for vision. Mighty Dog Senior. It makes your dog a mighty dog. From Friskies.
If you wear dentures, imagine how nervous teaching teenagers could make you feel. What if your dentures slipped? But thanks to the all-day hold of Super Polygrip, those days are over. I think that says a lot about the power of Polygrip.
China said today it is not impressed with the CIA's decision to fire one U.S. intelligence analyst and discipline 6 others for mistakenly targeting the Chinese embassy in Belgrade last year. The air attack killed 3 Chinese and injured more than 20. The intended target was a Serb military agency more than a quarter of a mile away. Despite U.S. apologies, China still doubts that the bombing was a mistake. When it comes to believing the worst about the actions and motives of the United States, no one can top Cuba's Fidel Castro. He's been a thorn in Washington's side for decades. But as Randall Pinkston reports, the fight over Elián González has handed him a rare victory.
As world leaders arrive in Havana for an international summit for developing nations, Cuban President Fidel Castro has the perfect venue to step up the pressure over Elián. You might expect more speeches and demonstrations here, but none are scheduled because in the battle for public opinion, Castro has already won.
Well, I think Castro's score is quite high. He was able to use the Elián case to rally public opinion in Cuba.
Wayne Smith, former chief of the U.S. interest section in Havana, thinks Castro's opponents are their own worst enemies.
I think the big loser, quite clearly, were indeed the Miami Cubans, who handled themselves in such a questionable manner.
And the Cuban government has seized this opportunity to take aim at what has become an easy target.
Now you see them in action, using a little boy just to satisfy their mean and narrow political interest.
Not that Castro hasn't used his own people for Cuba's political interests. This demonstration space was constructed after Elián's rescue, with seating for thousands of government-sponsored protesters. But Castro, known for his political savvy, realizes scenes like this airport send-off must stop. He must take the high road when Elián comes home.
The most important thing for him is to return to a normal life. That implies privacy. To mourn, to cry for his mother.
No big parades.
No big parade or small parades.
While this appears to be a victory for Castro, it was an easy one. For the first time in 40 years, he had support from the most unlikely source, the U.S. government. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, Havana.
North and South Korea, technically at war for a half-century, today announced plans for a summit conference in June. South Korea says President Kim Dae-jung proposed the meeting and was surprised at how quickly it was accepted by the North's communist leader Kim Jong-il. They would be the first Korean leaders to meet face-to-face since the peninsula was divided in 1945.
In case of fire, this is a good place to stand, unless you're a computer. One company that hosts web servers knows that, and Janus knows them. Before buying their stock, Janus went after every drop of information, right down to their fire extinguishers. Their system doesn't use water. It puts out fires without drowning computers. A minor detail? Not if it's your money. Get there. Janus Mutual Funds.
It was awful with my overactive bladder. I was going so often. Then bottom of the ninth, suddenly I had to go. And that time I had to race to the bathroom. That did it. I asked my doctor about Detrol.
If you live with any of these symptoms, strong sudden urges to go, going frequently, wedding accidents, you may have overactive bladder, a medical condition. Prescription Detrol effectively treats overactive bladder. Detrol helps control bladder contractions that cause those strong, sudden urges. If you have certain types of stomach, urinary, or glaucoma problems, do not take Detrol. The most common side effect is dry mouth. Some others may include dry eyes, headache, constipation, and indigestion. Overactive bladder is a treatable medical condition, so don't wait. Ask your doctor today about Detrol, the #1 brand prescribed by doctors for overactive bladder.
Glad I asked my doctor about Detrol.
In hospital pharmacies, they dispense medicines that work fast. For heartburn, that's 1-minute Malox.
It goes to work on stomach acid in 1 minute. Pepcid AC could take over 45 minutes.
Hospital pharmacies rely on Malox. Shouldn't you?
Count on 1-minute Malox.
Why so many days-in hotels worldwide? Because you might want to go to London someday. And we can't be sure.
England!
Which one? Days In. There you go.
Jolly good.
Get the inside scoop from Harrison Ford on life, movies, and stardom.
It's the deal you make with the devil.
Harrison Ford, part of Leading Men Month, this week on The Early Show.
Finally tonight, news about records and proud parents. 30-year-old Ken Griffey Jr. of the Cincinnati Reds today hit his 400th career home run, the youngest player ever to reach that milestone. And Griffey did it on the day his father turned 50, the fourth time Jr. has homered on senior's birthday. And then there is the proud mother in Philmont, New York, giving birth to 17 brothers and sisters on the same day. There she is, the tired-looking St. Bernard who'll need the patience of a saint. Of the 17 pups she delivered, 16 are still alive, tying the record for the second largest puppy litter ever to survive. How do you feed 16 pups? The owner says there's only one way, 8 at a time. And that is the CBS Evening News. For Dan Rather, I'm John Roberts, CBS News in New York. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
For news 24 hours a day, CBS.com on the internet and on our interactive partner, America Online, at keyword CBS News.
Hoping for a miracle.
Juan Miguel González counting the days and reportedly not ruling out coming to Miami to get his son.
Two of South Florida's most powerful mayors trying one last time to persuade Attorney General Janet Reno to let the families meet face to face. We have live night team coverage.
South Florida on high alert for brush fires tonight for good reason.
Residents forced out of their Miami Beach apartment building because of this.
Plus, a little boy dragged into a lion's cage, and what happens next? Too horrifying for words, especially for his father who watched it all.
I'm Lori Jennings.
I'm Rick Sanchez. A lot of news tonight. We're going to have it right here next on 7 News at 10.
Now, live from the news station. This is 7 News at 10.
The night team in Little Havana tonight at a massive vigil, one of the largest shows of support yet in the Elián González case.
Exiles unhappy with the way the Clinton administration is handling the case of Elián González, who tonight arrived home most likely not knowing that plans for his return to Cuba are already underway. And hello again, everybody. For thousands of exiles, it is a solemn night filled with both hope and a sense of helplessness.
At this point, it looks like it would take a miracle for that little boy to remain in South Florida. And that is exactly what supporters have been praying for. The night team's Jeff Pegues is joining us now live from Little Havana. Jeff, what a sight.
It was a sight this evening. Thousands of supporters gathering here in Little Havana, many hoping that they will see Elián González stay here in the U.S. Hope and miracle, words that we heard a lot tonight. Words of hope from people who say they hope the little boy will not go back to Cuba. Miracle, people acknowledging that it might take a miracle for him to stay here in the U.S. 40,000 strong tonight, a peaceful crowd, many wanting the little boy to live here in Little Havana with his Miami family.
And I'm just here to give my support to Elián and his cause.
It is a cause that on this night, thousands have come to support, and those who can't make it here are logging on.
We've got in the last half hour 2,500 hits.
Hitting the World Wide Web to get their fill of this worldwide custody controversy.
This is like very significant. It's not only justice for him, it's justice for all of us, you know, and he's like the symbol.
The symbol to some of freedom. Those who've gathered here want 6-year-old Elián González to stay in the U.S., even though they know the Clinton administration believes the little boy should be reunited with his father to go live in Cuba.
This case has been so commotional for 4 months, and things at the last minute we lose hope and things get back again, together again, so that we still have the same hope.
And because they say the Justice Department has dimmed their hopes, they are turning to prayer. A coalition of churches leading a service for thousands at a vigil of red, white, and blue.
An American citizen, like the people say, well, we all American. Whoever born in this side of the America, they Americans. And I'm not agree with Elián goes back to Cuba. He's going to go back to the communist country.
But while there are many in the crowd who are hoping Elián will stay, there are some who believe all of this is a final goodbye.
He's going back as far as I'm concerned.
In the next couple of days, Elián González is expected to be reunited with his father and return to Cuba. It is something that the thousands who gathered here hoped that they would never see. We're live in Little Havana. Jeff Pegues, 7 News, 19.
And from Jeff, we go now to the night team's Craig Stevens with the first step in actually returning the boy to his father.
Yeah, that step of meeting with mental health professionals that almost didn't happen for a while today, huh, Craig?
Well, that's Rick. There was a 3-hour delay, largely in part because the family asked to change the venue. They wanted Elián to have the opportunity to visit with his cousin Maris Lacey, so they asked the meeting to be moved from Jackson Hospital to Mercy Hospital in the Grove, and the Justice Department did comply. The meeting finally went off late this afternoon, lasted for about an hour. As we have told you, the family are not a willing participant in this process because the feds have made it very clear from the get-go, the point of this meeting, to figure out how to get Elián back to his father. Elián González, his Miami uncle at his side, returns to the Little Havana home that may not be his home much longer. The pair returning from a visit at Mercy Hospital with cousin Maris Lacy's and a meeting with a trio of government-sanctioned child experts.
It was cordial as the meeting broke up. I mean, there was conversation between both parties as they were leaving the conference room.
In one room, according to a source, Elián played with Maris Lacy's, still a patient here being treated for stress. In another, his uncle and a lawyer and the team of child experts. Those experts are not believed to have actually met with Elián or with Maris Lacy's. The two psychiatrists and one psychologist here to map out a trauma-free way for the family to transfer Elián from their care to his father's. The family wanted any such group to examine the boy and issue a binding recommendation. But in a letter late Sunday, the INS commissioner remained firm, quote, "Let me again make clear the role of these experts. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss with your client how to best prepare and assist Elián in making the transition to his father's care in a manner most supportive to Elián." Outwardly, anyway, the 6-year-old at the center of this international tug-of-war seemed largely unfazed as he played in his family's front yard. Those eager and determined to keep him here, however, increasingly concerned that family scenes like this one will soon be just a memory. And that panel of experts, those three have since returned to Washington. Their job at this point, as we understand, to make a recommendation to the Justice Department how best to proceed with this reunification process. Before I let you go, I might point out over my shoulder here a sizable crowd that has gathered, of course, met here by Miami police officers, a peaceful crowd, but a very, very large contingent. A number of them had been at the vigil earlier. They have since proceeded to the family's home here. And as you look at this picture, I might also mention that as all of this went on today, the family's lawyers did file briefs today on what they hope to be two important cases. Their pending case in state family court and also the pending case at the federal level at the appellate court. They've filed motions there as well. Their hope at this point, obviously, is that Elián González will even be here when that day in court finally rolls around. Right now, we're live in Little Havana. I'm Craig Stevens, 7 News Night Team.
It's looking like that won't be the case. For more on that, our night team coverage stretches all the way to our nation's capital, and that is where Brian Andrews is standing by.
Brian, we understand the letter to the family now has been sent, explaining how Elián should actually be turned over to his father?
Well, if the letter has been sent, that is news here to us in Washington, because we were told that the letter would be sent tomorrow after the three child experts had met with Janet Reno and Doris Meisner to brief them. We understand that Janet Reno wanted to nail down the plan on the transfer and inform the family right away. So are you telling me that the letter has been sent?
No, as a matter of fact, Brian, we were under the impression that the letter had already been prepared in Washington as to whether or not it's actually...
Okay, I misunderstood you. No, yeah, as you had mentioned, the letter is still being prepared, but it hasn't been sent. Janet Reno does want to get the specifics out to the family as soon as possible. But before she gets that letter off, she needs to meet with the three experts who met with the family in Miami today and with Juan Miguel over the weekend. Also, she'll be meeting with the mayors from South Florida, Miami-Dade Mayor Pinellas and Joe Carollo tomorrow morning. Today, Juan Miguel González had really a low-key day in Bethesda, Maryland. He did meet with a couple people, a Washington attorney and a father's rights advocate, and they emerged from their meetings saying that Juan Miguel told them that he will not go anywhere to pick up his son. He wants his son brought to him.
As of now, there is no decision on where the father-son reunion will take place, but Justice Department officials say it very well could be here in Maryland at the home where Juan Miguel González, his wife and baby are staying.
I saw no indication of any willingness for him to go to Miami, and I certainly wouldn't advise him to go to Miami. The U.S. government has an obligation to deliver his son to him. There's no obligation on his part to go down to Miami, and I think for him to go to Miami would be potentially dangerous.
Justice Department officials say they're looking at two options for reuniting the boy with his father. The first, the Miami family would bring Elián to his father. The second, a third party would pick up Elián from the Miami family and deliver him to his dad.
His child, he feels, should be brought to him here, that it is not up to him to go to Miami and get his child. He told you that directly? He told us that he will be waiting for his child here.
A plane carrying a banner that read, "Pray for Elián, let him stay free," flew over rush hour traffic in the Washington area, echoing the sentiments fisherman Donato Dalrymple had hoped to once again share with Elián's father in a second face-to-face meeting that did not happen.
He's already adapted to Mari Lacy's, his cousin. He's taken her on to be a surrogate mother.
regardless if Juan Miguel likes it or not. That's Elián's feelings.
Miami-Dade Mayor Alex Pinellas and Miami Mayor Joe Carollo plan to meet Tuesday with Attorney General Janet Reno at the Justice Department. Mayor Pinellas has told the Justice Department that a Miami family member would like to attend, possibly Lazaro González. But the Justice Department says nothing has been firmed up yet.
I think the main request to her will be that she use her authority to bring about a meeting of the family meeting, so they can decide among themselves what they think is in the best interest of the child. That's where the decision really belongs, and we are hopeful that if she does that, that will help ease tensions in our community.
Now, Justice Department officials tell 7 News that there's been an agreement reached already between Mayor Pinellas and Janet Reno that any possible discussion of delaying the reunification won't even be brought up tomorrow. Because of that, they're only going to be talking about the upcoming reunion. And again, to reiterate, the Justice Department is working out details of the letter that Janet Reno hopes to send tomorrow afternoon once she meets with not only the Miami mayors, but with the 3 child psychologists who have met with the family to determine the best way possible to transfer Elián in a way that's least disruptive to his life. We're live in Washington. I'm Brian Andrews, 7 News Night Team.
And Brian, is the Justice Department still standing by, telling the father that he will have his son between, you said, Wednesday and Saturday?
That was the time frame given to us earlier today by a Justice Department official. If that letter goes out tomorrow as planned, and again, I'm not privy to the details of the letter, but it could be a 24 to 48-hour time frame, which would fit in what we were, into the time frame that we were given earlier by the Justice Department.
What if the family receives the letter tomorrow, Brian, and says we're not comfortable turning the boy over under these conditions and refuses to do so?
Well, Rick, that's a possibility, but if the family chooses to go down that road, a road that they've said in the past they would not go down because they'll follow the law, then the Justice Department would be able to go to court and have a federal judge compel the family to comply, or else face some very serious legal sanctions, perhaps even some jail time.
All right, Brian Andrews following that story for us from our nation's capital.
So as it stands right now, the attention shifts to tomorrow morning when Mayors Pinellas and Carollo head to Washington.
They are hoping to be able to convince the Attorney General that the family should be allowed to settle this among themselves, face to face. They will arrive in Washington around 9 a.m., and 7 News will be there as well.
And the night team now working on another major story. This one, a brush fire alert for all of South Florida. We're talking Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, even Collier counties. The night team's Diana Diaz is live in Southwest Miami-Dade at one of the major hot spots tonight. Diana?
The entire 20-acre area behind me is extremely hot, and I want to turn off the light and show you why residents are so concerned. It's because of this. Everywhere they look tonight, there are hot spots.
You can see the red glow from here, but you move back and you can see the flames almost as high as the trees.
Residents can see the scorched earth and hear the crackling hot spots, but it's what they're breathing in that's driving them out.
Very smoky. We're trying to cook dinner in the house and it's still pretty bad. Our clothes are, bad smoke damage.
I got an old man over here on oxygen. I got my 2 kids. My neighbor here's good enough to help me out, get us a place to stay out of the smoke.
This man packing up his wife and 2 children and getting out of the line of smoke. Dozens of residents living along 271st Street in Naranja forced to deal with the lingering effects of a fire that burned through 20 acres on Monday.
This fire started in the middle of the day when it was real dry and windy and jumped the canal and into a wooded area.
Firefighters working against strong winds and dry conditions to contain the fire, a level 4 out of 5. This, the latest one to strike southwest Miami-Dade.
There's a lot of property that's been destroyed in the last few weeks. There's boats, homes. People need to keep that in mind when they're out in the brush areas or even possibly with the cigarettes in the dry grass.
This fire is under control, but with conditions favorable for new ones to spark, firefighters and residents continue to be on high alert.
We'll be watching, checking, make sure that flames don't get higher.
Now, firefighters out here say this is under control, it is contained, but you can do your part. And this is the reason why all the brush out here is extremely dry, so when the sun comes out tomorrow and the wind starts kicking up again, they're gonna have another problem. So what you can do is clear dry brush from your areas and keep an eye on things, just basically be careful. Live in Southwest Miami-Dade, Diana Diaz, 7 News 19.
All right, Diana, and a brush fire that started over the weekend is still causing problems tonight in Southwest Florida. Firefighters thought that they had this one under control, but high winds causing it to spread even more. Smoke blowing over parts of East Naples and Marco Island. 3 buildings have been destroyed and some traffic in the area restricted. The fire has consumed more than 4,000 acres of grass.
And firefighters watching hot spots in Hernando County. Officials say the string of fires that broke out north of Tampa over the weekend may be the work of arsonists. Strong winds and dry brush quickly fueling this one. More than 100 acres have been torched at this point, with the flames coming dangerously close to several area homes.
In 2 minutes, fire breaking out also at a Miami Beach apartment complex. Residents have been evacuated. The night team is live on that scene.
A training mission ends in tragedy after a military aircraft goes down tonight. An investigation is underway.
A circus lion pulling a little boy from his father's arms right into a cage. This is a horrifying story. It's straight ahead.
A 50-ton crane collapsing on a Florida bridge. The latest on this accident coming up.
A spring snowstorm taking New Englanders, didn't know what that word said, by surprise. More than a foot of snow wreaking havoc in some spots.
And a St. Bernard, now the proud mom of a 16-pack of pups. Imagine. The night team coming right back.
You are watching 7 News at 10 with Lori Jennings, Rick Sanchez, meteorologist Bill Kamal with weather, and Deuces Rogers with sports.
It's Neil Rogers.
There you go, Neil.
Yeah, get off the speakerphone. This is a high-rated show here. We don't talk to people on speakerphones. Are you nuts?
Neil Rogers, Dolphins, Marlins, Panthers, and now the Hurricanes. Exclusively on Sports Radio 560 WQAM.
I don't live to exercise. I exercise to live.
I don't live to exercise. I exercise to live.
Introducing Propel Fitness Water.
My workout is my wake-up call.
6 essential vitamins, a splash of fruit flavor.
Suddenly time isn't about a thin line. Time isn't about... It's about the deep space.
From the makers of Gatorade, everything in balance.
I don't live to exercise. I exercise to live.
The first fitness water is the next water.
Water for life!
Propel.
Once in a while, a car comes along that's really worth pursuing. A car with features like an automatic transmission, alloy wheels, ABS, a security system, and more, all offered at a price that has proven to be very elusive. Of course, you have to see such a car. To not would be criminal. The Special Edition Accord from Honda. Now get special APR financing as low as 3.9% for 36 months on new 4-cylinder Accords.
Florida residents, tired of your typical theme park offer?
Available only on the second Tuesday of the month when the wind is blowing out of the southeast, or you are left-handed and can do a somersault.
Here's a better way. Just visit SeaWorld or Busch Gardens right now. Pay for a single-day admission and come back to that park as often as you like. It's simple. Spend $46 now, then spend the rest of the year on us at Busch Gardens or SeaWorld. You'll have plenty of fun, but you don't have plenty of time. So, you better hurry.
It's Neil Rogers.
Talk about something that might mean something instead of your boring one-dimensional swill, okay, sir? People like you make me want to barf.
Neil Rogers, Dolphins, Marlins, Panthers, and now the Hurricanes. Exclusively on Sports Radio 560 WQAM.
Closed caption brought to you in part by City Furniture, the ultimate furniture store.
Miami Beach apartment going up in flames. Residents evacuated while firefighters battled this one. And tonight, an elderly woman is without a place to live.
Yeah, this apartment fire ends up gutting one unit and damaging others. The building's fire alarm never even went off. That's a problem. The night team's Lynn Martinez is live tonight. She's on the scene with more. Lynn?
Rick, this indeed was a big one. In fact, the resident of the apartment where the fire started up there says that she left this afternoon for about 30 minutes. She says she went to the grocery store for a quick hit, and then she came back, she says, about a half hour later. Next thing she knows, her apartment and the building, she says, is engulfed in flames. And just like that, she loses everything she has. 3 apartments burned beyond recognition. 3 Miami Beach families losing everything they own to a raging fire.
I can smell something burning, but I really didn't know, if it was here
if it was somebody next to us around here burning something.
Residents smelled something, but say the building's fire alarm didn't go off. The fire started in Mercedes Duarte's master bedroom.
What were you able to salvage?
Nothing.
Your clothes, your documents, everything?
Everything.
Within minutes, the fire took over her apartment, the apartment above her, and the apartment below.
I went up the stairs. When I saw the big smoke, and then she was right there in front of her door. The fire was already, big time, everywhere in the room. And she was crying, and I tried to help her, but then, what can I do?
Already raging by the time firefighters arrived, the only thing they could do was contain the fire and get everyone out alive. As investigators go through the burned out apartments, preliminary results show the fire started in the master bedroom, but still no word on why residents never heard the fire alarm go off.
The alarm didn't went on, and I think that's very wrong and very bad, because we have a lot of old people living here, especially my mother, and what can I say? It was a big mess. It is a big mess.
However, we did talk to some residents who live in this building tonight, and some of them say they did hear the fire alarm go off, but it wasn't that loud, according to them. Investigators are looking into both claims. They're also, of course, investigating what started this fire to begin with in the woman's master bedroom. In the meantime, some of the residents tonight are staying at a hotel. The Red Cross is also helping them out, trying to decide what to do next. In Miami Beach, Lynn Martinez, 7 News, Night Team.
And there's some new information now out of Hialeah concerning a hit and run that happened over the weekend.
And let's go to Ralph Rayburn for that one. He's following the story. Ralph, what's going on and what's with the truck?
Well, the truck is a truck that police in Hialeah believe was involved on Saturday around noontime in a hit and run involving a man in a motorized cart. Let's go to some videotape that we have. This is video that was shot around noontime on Saturday, and these pictures will show you the cart and the scene at at East 8th Avenue and 17th Street. A man in a motorized cart, 72 years old, was crossing the roadway when he was struck by a pickup truck. Fits the truck where we are right now, a blue pickup truck. Now, what makes this really unusual is that the driver of the vehicle actually stopped down the street to remove the cart from underneath and then continued on without rendering any assistance. So obviously the police department wants to talk to this guy. Apparently they set up on this pickup truck. It was whether it was an anonymous tip or not, we don't know. But Hialeah police came back. We'll come back out to the live picture to this truck right here, and they say that the truck had the tags changed. This license tag here was changed. Came back as belonging to another vehicle. They checked the front end of the car. And there is some damage there. They believe this is involved, and they do believe that they know who the driver of the truck is. Now, they've got a tow truck here. They're going to take it back to the Hialeah Police Department and work on it, pull fingerprints and stuff off of it, make that determination. And they will get back to us with more information, but they believe they have the latest development here in this hit and run, trying to find out who the person was that struck this man in the motorized cart on Saturday. That's the situation here in Hialeah. I'm Ralph Rayburn reporting live.
All right, Ralph, thank you. And dozens of tires going up in flames tonight at a South Florida junkyard, sending up thick black smoke. 7 Skyforce over this smoky scene right along Northwest 74th Street and 81st Avenue in Medley. Firefighters quickly putting out the flames with no injuries. The cause of that fire is still under investigation. A chemical leak brings out the hazmat crews near Fort Lauderdale. Chlorine leaking from Jones Chemical this afternoon along the 1900 block of Northwest 22nd Street. And that leak forcing people in a 3-block area to be evacuated. 6 people had to be treated on the scene for difficulty breathing.
2 high-ranking postal officials arrested in Venezuela, and tonight they're in South Florida in federal custody. They are facing conspiracy charges. Now, you may remember this one. Jerry Lynn and Wanda Martinez, they disappeared from their $1 million home in Parkland back in February. Well, it turns out their home was allegedly paid for by kickbacks from companies that did business with the U.S. Postal Service, and the pair supervised. In all, the government says both collected more than $1 million over a period of 3 years. Tonight, both, we understand, remain behind bars. A bond hearing is now.
Aircraft that's a cross between a chopper and an airplane going down in a deadly crash. This tragedy happening during training maneuvers. All 19 Marines on board were killed in that accident. Rick has moved into the Satellite Center now with more on this. Rick?
Yeah, and, this is a basic idea that they have come up with. Unfortunately, it's an idea that just doesn't seem to be working, Lori. It's called an Osprey, a hybrid aircraft, if you will. A helicopter that can stop and turn into a plane or vice versa. it's looking tonight like this is an idea whose time has not come.
This is a heart-wrenching tragedy for all of us. We are a closely knit, fiercely proud organization, one big family. And when something like this happens, it affects us all.
2 tilt-rotor Ospreys on a night exercise. One lands safely, but charred debris is all that remains of the other after it nosedived during a landing attempt and crashing, killing all 19 people aboard.
I saw the second airplane come into view when the ground lights started shining on both of them, and it was rolled. It was almost starting to go inverted at that time, nose low, and the last 20 foot of it I couldn't see as it went behind the hangar and it crashed, and then just a big ball of fire.
And I saw when it landed, you know, I didn't see when it landed, but I see the little light was coming down and just boom, big flame.
They want to keep us back just to give investigators the space that they need to look through this.
From the air, it becomes an obviously difficult task for investigators, sifting through what remains of the tilt-rotor aircraft involved in this training mission shortly before the crash.
The aircraft here were participating in a troop lift or troop transport, and essentially in a real-life situation that would be similar to evacuating U.S. citizens and embassy personnel from embassies in a country that has a higher threat level. This
Osprey is not the first to be involved in a crash. Back in 1992, the experimental plane plunged into the Potomac River, killing 3 Marines and 4 civilians. In this latest crash, 4 of the crew members that were killed were part of the squad that flies the president's helicopters. Flowers are now being left near the crash site for all of the victims. We don't know at this point if the president knew of any of these pilots, and there has been no word tonight from the White House. Meanwhile, all of these vehicles have now been grounded officially until further investigations. Lori, back to you.
All right, Rick. And tonight, a man is hurt after a crane collapse in Daytona Beach. The 700-foot-long crane tumbling to the ground just as construction crews were working on a bridge. One worker was on the crane when it crashed 20 feet below. The man suffered a fractured ankle and injured his head. An investigation now into the cause of all this continues. And a freight train derailing in Pennsylvania. 4 cars jumping the tracks, flipping on their sides. One of those cars containing a chemical that is considered hazardous. Residents in the area were forced to evacuate their homes just as a precaution. Officials say it'll take them one more day to remove this wreck.
Other stories that we're going to be following from the Newsplex for you. A visit to the circus turning a tragedy after a little boy was dragged into a lion's cage. We're going to tell you what happens.
South Florida homeowner
builds a 6-foot fence around a neighborhood lake.
And the group, fenced in, furious now, determined to fight back. The night team's Carmel Cafaro has the solution in tonight's Love Thy Neighbor report.
Homeowners at Winston Park and Coconut Creek say they bought here because of the lake in their backyard.
We, fished there, we stocked this lake.
But now they say a developer has moved in and they've been fenced in.
There's no reason that I have to stand here and look out at a lake like this, I do feel like I'm in a concentration camp.
We bought lakefront property, and now it's getting less and less lakefront.
These 2 coconut trees are mine. They are no longer mine.
Homeowners say they always knew the land behind their homes didn't belong to them, but thought they would always be able to use it as their own.
When we moved in, we were told it was going to be a park, that we would have access to the park also.
Now they're looking at construction through a 6-foot-high chain-link fence, and they say the developer behind it isn't being very neighborly.
We can't get in touch with anybody over there. They just never call us back.
We just would like them to work with us as homeowners that have been in the neighborhood for most of us over 10 years, since the inception of this land.
It was always deemed to be residential.
Coconut Creek Planning and Zoning Manager Harold Zomek says it's always a good idea to check what's planned for any vacant property in a neighborhood before you buy. But no matter what you find, remember, plans change and so do developments.
There's no way to tell ahead of time to anticipate this.
But there may still be rooms with a view here. After 7 News started asking questions, the developer made an offer. If the homeowners pay, he'll put up a new 5-foot fence with gates to the lake. And that might make for a final solution for this lake debate. Carmel Cafaro, 7 News.
And if you have a problem in your neighborhood, do call Carmel. That number is 305-930-PLEX. It could just be our next Love Thy Neighbor report.
Well, it's not the way they had originally intended it, but the Jenny Craig Company announcing that we're all going to be seeing a lot less of Monica Lewinsky in their commercials. The weight loss program is launching a new campaign without the former White House intern who recently endorsed the program. Instead, the ads will feature less familiar testimonial clients. Lewinsky told USA Today the new campaign might be a lot easier without her. So did she lose the weight or not?
That's the question. And that cash bonus, we'll have to find out more.
We'll have to make some phone calls on that one.
All right, there's a lot more coming your way tonight. This is certainly the biggest story in our area. Now going into its third hour, hundreds of supporters turning out at this vigil to show their support for young Elián González. We'll keep an eye on things for you. We'll check back.
And then look at this picture. You ready? Take a look at this. You know what this is? This is a St. Bernard that's made history.
Tragic when a lion goes on the attack. The creature literally snatching away a 6-year-old boy right from the arms of his father when they got too close to the cage. Police fired on all of the lions in the cage and killed 3 of them, but not soon enough to save the boy. One circus employee even said the animals hadn't been fed in days. In eastern Hungary, the rising river Tisza has flooded several towns, forcing hundreds out of their homes, and it's expected to get even worse if it overflows its banks. The Army's been working round the clock, filling up sandbags to reinforce the flood barriers.
Now, time for 7 weather with Bill Kamau.
So stalking tennis star Martina Hingis probably won't be getting out of jail anytime soon.
Which airline is best? Tell you what a new study shows.
And a cat found just in the nick of time after getting stuck on an airplane.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Gould in for Angela Ray.
I'm Steve Wolford. CBS 4 News tonight, right here, right now.
Now, live. This is CBS 4 News at 11.
First at 11, thousands take to the streets tonight praying for Elián to stay in the U.S. Hours earlier, a high-stakes meeting between the boy's Miami family and several psychiatrists, laying down the groundwork for a reunion with a father vowing to continue his fight for his son.
And live pictures tonight out of Little Havana, where hundreds are gathered, waiting and watching for the government next move. The government expected to meet tomorrow with those psychiatrists to hash out a plan for a peaceful handover.
By this time tomorrow night, we may know when and where it's supposed to happen. We have live team coverage on the fight for Elián. We begin tonight with CBS 4's Gary Nelson outside the boys' home in Little Havana. Gary.
Well, Steve, I can tell you the day dawned with hope certainly on the government's part that an accord might be reached, a bargain might be struck. It was not to be. And tonight, the Justice Department would appear poised to move with or without the cooperation of Elián's South Florida family. Justice Department officials and government-appointed mental health experts arrived at Jackson Hospital for a counseling session with Elián's South Florida family, a session intended to reach a plan for Elián's peaceful return to his dad. But even as these psychologist-supervised talks were set to begin, the family was issuing demands.
What we want to do is we want to make sure that Elián is not harmed in any way psychologically by the transfer. We believe that the best way to do it is for Juan Miguel to come to the house.
With the whole world watching, Elián's family here kept the government's negotiators waiting for hours at Jackson. Uncle Lazaro was across town at Mercy Hospital, where Elián's cousin and fill-in mother figure, Maurice Laces, is hospitalized, overcome by stress. The family sent word, "We can't come to you, can you come to us?"
The 3 mental health experts agreed to accommodate Mr. Elián González's request to meet with him at Mercy Hospital today.
Abundantly patient, the government delegation packed up lock, stock, and psychologists and caravanned off to meet the family at Mercy. An independent psychologist urging Elián's Miami folks to get past a state of denial.
Realize that this transfer is impending, and at this point, they have to shift their focus to working with him to prepare him for the move and working with Elián's father to effect a smooth transfer.
But hope of that was fleeting.
The meeting is over.
Okay, both the parties, the Gonzalez family, the doctors, and the people from INS have left.
Only Uncle Lazaro and a lawyer met with the government's doctors, a meeting that lasted scarcely an hour. The Washington delegation had no comment as it hit the airport to leave town, but their stern faces and silence spoke volumes about agreement not reached, a crisis not resolved. Now the government's mental team, 2 psychiatrists and a psychologist, are scheduled to meet tomorrow with Attorney General Janet Reno in Washington. That meeting, it is fully expected, will be swiftly followed by an order from the Justice Department directing the family here in Miami as to the time and place for Elián to be surrendered. We're live in Miami. Gary Nelson, CBS 4 News tonight.
Our team coverage continues now with CBS 4 Stacey Santos live in Little Havana with more on tonight's massive demonstration for Elián. Stacey.
Steve, this was a huge rally. Police estimate some 15,000 people showed up. Emotions were very high, but it was peaceful, and once again the message was loud and clear. While they shouted justice for Elián, you couldn't help feel a sense of power on Northwest 22nd Avenue and Northwest 2nd Street. The thousands that showed up, young, old, men, women, were forced to be reckoned with. From Chopper 4, it looked like a sea of people.
There's young people that believe in Elián and believe in his right to stay in this country. And I think we should let the civil process take its due process. I mean, that's the reason we're here for law.
I came here because I was born here, to ask Clinton to let Elián free like we were free.
Holding both Cuban and American flags high in the air, prayers were shouted from megaphones and most listened from old-fashioned radios. Gloria Casal left work early to bring her 92-year-old mother-in-law, Maria. Despite the chilly weather and the risk of the elderly woman getting sick, they told us this was well worth it.
It's extremely important to be here in support of Elián. We like to remind the American people that in North America, the rights of the child are above parental rights.
You know, government officials keep talking about finding a neutral site to do this custody transfer of Elián. Well, I'll tell you what, from the looks of it tonight, Miami couldn't possibly be one of them. We're live in Little Havana. Stacey Santos, CBS 4 News tonight.
And from Little Havana, our live team coverage continues now in Washington, D.C. CBS 4's Ted Scouten is live now with the latest developments from our nation's capital. Ted.
Well, Jen, talks tonight here in Washington are about hopes for a peaceful transfer for Elián, as well as a transfer in a neutral site. Now, we know that that is definitely on the mind of Juan Miguel González, Elián's father. Now he's saying that if there is a peaceful transfer of Elián, then the child may end up staying in the U.S. a little bit longer. Juan Miguel González showed off his paternal side, along with his young son, Yanni. He spent much of the day greeting guests and likely thinking about the upcoming reunion with his son, Elián. Once he gets him, Juan Miguel has no legal obligation to stay in the U.S., but through a friend, he said he will. The South Florida relatives cooperate.
He told me that what he really wanted, more than anything else, is to take his boy and go home, but that he was prepared to wait out the appeals process in the United States if there could be a peaceful transition.
The INS also hopes it will be peaceful and they don't have to send in federal marshals.
We would hope that we would be able to set up something so that Elián will not have to be carried through a throng of people in Miami that have been around that house. I hope that everybody will keep in mind the well-being of this young boy.
Elián's great uncle Delphine is in Washington, warning the INS and Janet Reno that if federal marshals are sent in, tempers in Miami could explode.
If the Justice Department decides to move in and take this boy by force, he feels that they would have a great price to pay. He feels that the community will not let this boy go at any cost.
He's been home all day. I couldn't have met him. I mean, why couldn't I have?
Knowing Juan Miguel spent all afternoon at home, Donato Dalrymple, the fisherman who found Elián, spent the day talking to Juan Miguel's attorney, trying to set up another meeting. That idea was rejected.
I just want to let him know from what I seen. Now, anything else in the dark, I don't know, but I want to calm his mind to let him know what I have seen in that house.
Well, now all the attention focuses onto the Justice Department. All eyes are on the Justice Department to see what's going to happen tomorrow. We'll definitely be following that one for you. We're live in Washington. I'm Ted Scouten, CBS 4 News Tonight.
In several hours, Miami Mayor Joe Carroyo and Miami-Dade's Alex Pinellas will be flying to D.C. to talk to U.S. Attorney General Janet Reno. The mayors will meet with Reno tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Carroyo and Pinellas will propose a plan to make Elián's return to his father less traumatic. Now, that includes a 30-day transfer period that would allow the boy to gradually accept the fact that he must leave and go back to Cuba.
Now, after having seen his mother snatched out of his life overnight, do we want to see the same thing, that the family that he loves, that he wants to be with here, we're going to snatch them out of his life in a matter of hours too?
The mayors also want the boy to be handed over to his father without the presence of media or Cuban officials. Meantime, on the legal front, we have these developments tonight. Elián's Miami relatives have until tomorrow morning to file for an emergency hearing to explain why a Florida circuit judge should hear their custody case. Also, the family today filed a brief in their last-ditch appeal of the federal ruling that said Elián should go back to his father in Cuba. Bottom line is that the ruling still stands tonight, but the case is pending. And as the fight for Elián intensifies, stay with CBS 4 News for continuing coverage.
Also new at 11 tonight, police say they're a step closer to an arrest in a hit and
That's the father of Elián González?
Wow, he's here.
In our audience, is that what that is?
Time
Supposed to be in Florida. Supposed to be in Florida picking up the kids, sir. What are you... Hey, last night, did you folks watch the, I guess it was the season finale or the grand finale of The Sopranos?
Yeah, season finale.
Season finale? They ended up whacking the entire cast of Falcone.
Oh.
And then last night, here on CBS, we're all very excited and very proud because emergency room hospital pretty boy, George Clooney, you know, has a big contract here with the CBS television network to do big extravaganzas, and last night was the first extravaganza. It was the fail-safe story. How many of you enjoyed watching the fail-safe? They had to do this. They had to modify it to make it seem contemporary, to make it seem au courant. They had to update the story. So in this version of fail-safe, the President of the United States launches a nuclear missile while he's having sex with an intern. So that... One of my clients. Here's my good friend Bill. It's my good friend Paul Schaefer. I was just thinking about the time that Senator John McCain said,
"Please get out of here."
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Please get out of here. Please get out of here. Biff Henderson has, where is Biff? Hey, Biff, nice to see you, ladies and gentlemen. You all know Vern. Oh, yeah. Biff, welcome to the show. How's your weekend?
Very good, thank you.
I understand you have a little something. This is from The Sopranos last night?
That's right, Dave.
This is that show on the HBO. Everybody's talking about it. It's like a mobster, gangster kind of show, right, Biff?
Yes, it is.
All right, what do you have for us here, Biff?
Well, the final Sopranos was billed as the most explosive episode ever.
Uh-huh.
But did it really live up to the hype?
Well, I don't know. Did it?
We'll take a look on Biff Henderson's Soprano Clip of the Night.
Sopranos Clip of the Night. Roll it.
I gotta sit down. Should I sit?
Dave, I'm sorry, I don't get HBO.
Soprano Club of the Night. Remember the time John McCain walked up to me and said,
Please get out of here.
What is that shrieking? What is all that shrieking going on? Did you hear that?
Somebody shrieking first, yeah.
Hey, have you folks filled out your census forms? You better fill them out because...
Bye.
I heard something very disturbing about an hour ago. You know, Oprah Winfrey has the brand new Oprah magazine.
Yeah, right.
It's coming out like in a month or so, and you can, I don't know, you can buy the Oprah magazine. It's like $3, and it's the Oprah magazine. Oprah will be featured on the cover of every issue. And I'm guessing it's because there is nothing more important than Oprah. Every cover of every magazine. See, my magazine, it should be different from your TV show. On your TV show, yeah, Oprah should be there. It's her show. But your magazine, Oprah don't have to be on the cover of every Oprah magazine. But she's going to be, and God bless her for it. What? You all right? Scratching? Okay. So, but here's the deal. If you don't fill out your census, you're going to prison. And a lot of people are not filling out the census forms. Paul, here we go.
Why they didn't fill out their census forms. And here's why.
What?
Here's why.
Okay, here's some folks who didn't fill out their census form. Regis Philbin, for example. There's Regis right there. He didn't fill out his census form because he's baffled by questions that don't have 4 answers from which to do.
Okay.
I would like to have an Oprah magazine, and I would like to be on every cover. All right. Yes, Oprah. Yes, absolutely, Oprah. And I'll be on each cover. Tom Cruise, Hollywood pretty boy, Tom Cruise, he didn't fill out his census form. Embarrassed because he received the short form. Wait a minute, let's go back to see that picture of Tom Cruise. Now, Paul,
yes.
Honest to God, if I walked around looking like that, I'd be beaten up on a regular basis, wouldn't I? Good Lord. Mr. Rogers, of course, he's not filling out his census form because he's a self-absorbed jerk who doesn't give a damn about the greater social good. I think that's a little harsh. That's a little harsh. I think it's a little harsh.
You must have gotten it mixed up or something.
That's a little harsh. Yeah. National treasure Cher, here she is. She's not filling out her...
New drug to treat impotence that may soon hit the market. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jim Bergamo in for Elliot Rodriguez.
And I'm Alita Haytain in for Jennifer Gould. CBS 4 News at noon is next.
Two TV legends back-to-back. Dick Van Dyke in Diagnosis Murder, followed by James Garner's return to television on Chicago Hope. It is thrilling. A Night of Legends, CBS Thursday.
With only 3 episodes left, Cos is fighting the Battle of the Bulge.
It's too late for me. I want you all to just save yourself.
All new Full Hour of Cosby, CBS Friday.
Last night, we told you about a group of terrorists who torched this scientist's office over her research on plants. Tonight, the spokesman for the group, who says he's willing to go to jail over what science may be putting in your food. An Eye on America special series continues on the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
Harm and Mac have nerves.
Now, live, this is CBS 4 News at noon.
Good afternoon, everyone. We want to take you live right now to Little Havana for some late-breaking news.
Taking place, and that meeting should take place before any further action
is initiated by the INS. Can't hear you anyway. And Lazaro is also requesting that it is imperative that this meeting take place before any further action is taken on the part of the INS or the Department of Justice. And finally, I'd like to announce that Lazaro is willing to accept the invitation of the Attorney General and Commissioner Meisner and is prepared to travel to Washington tomorrow to meet with both of them. Thank you. Can I try to do this in Spanish?
All right, as you just saw, that was a meeting with the lawyer for the family, Manny Diaz, making some comments right now. But right now, a meeting between Miami Mayor Joe Carollo and Miami-Dade Mayor Alex Pinellas is set to take place in about an hour.
All this while Elián's Miami relatives take a reluctant step toward returning the boy to his father. We've got live team coverage from South Florida to Washington, D.C., and that's where we begin with CBS 4's Ted Scouten.
Well, Alita, today Attorney General Janet Reno is expected to deliver a letter to the South Florida family telling them exactly how and when to turn the child over for the reunification with his father. Now, this morning we understand she spoke with psychiatrists and psychologists who are talking about how all this is going to take place, kind of hammering out the final details with them. But before that letter is delivered, the Attorney General is going to meet with Miami Mayor Joe Carollo and Miami-Dade Mayor Alex Pinellas. We also expect the great uncle Elián González to come here to the Justice Department to meet with the Attorney General. As the clock ticks on Elián's return to his father, the final scramble is on to come up with a plan for reunification. Elián González is set to meet with Janet Reno. Miami Mayor Joe Carollo left Miami this morning bound for Washington. Miami-Dade Mayor Alex Pinellas headed to the nation's capital too, all ready to meet with Janet Reno. She says on the table is discussion of reunification, not delays.
One of the main requests that we're going to be making to her is for her to intercede so the families can meet by themselves without interference, without pressure from anyone.
Two psychiatrists and a psychologist who met with Elián González are meeting with Reno as well. They will come up with a plan to reunite Elián with his dad. No time has been set yet for the actual exchange, but it will likely be later this week, possibly in Florida or here in Washington, D.C. Mayor Pinellas hopes that the final details will be hammered out by the family.
Let the families sit face to face and let them decide what's in the best interest of the boy without TV cameras, without bureaucrats, without lawyers, without politicians. Let them sit down and decide what's in the best interest of the child.
Meanwhile, Juan Miguel González, his wife and their son spent the morning meeting with Cuban officials at the interest section. They're likely talking about the impending reunification. Now, as you heard from that news conference in Little Havana just moments ago, Lazaro González, Elián's great uncle and his custodian, is now considering traveling up here to Washington to also meet with Janet Reno and Doris Meisner, the commissioner of the INS. But as far as we are hearing right now, it is possible and expected that today the South Florida family will get a letter telling them how and when this reunification is going to take place. We'll definitely stay on top of all of it for you. We're live in Washington. I'm Ted Scouten, CBS 4 News.
And now from Washington, D.C. to the waiting game in Little Havana.
CBS 4's Ileana Varela has more on the growing number of protesters who are holding out hope outside the home of Elián's relatives.
Yeah, and more importantly, Jim, there's been a lot of developments just within the last couple of minutes. You saw at the top of the newscast Manny Diaz, one of the attorneys for Lazaro González, announcing live that Lazaro will be traveling to Washington tomorrow to meet with Attorney General Janet Reno and with the INS Commissioner Doris Meisner. However, he is still making it very clear that there must be at some point a meeting between Juan Miguel González and his family here. And in fact, we were given a copy of a letter that has been faxed to Dr. Paulina Kernberg. She's the head of the team of doctors, psychiatrists who met with Lazaro González yesterday. Lazaro has faxed her this letter, basically trying to get her to commit to somehow arranging this meeting between him, Maris Lacy's, and Juan Miguel González. He is making a few points that I want to point out to you. He first of all says, we are writing to ask that no further ultimatums be issued before the family can meet. He is also proposing that this meeting be held at the home of Sister Jean O'Loughlin, which is of course the place where the grandmothers met with Elián. However, he says he will also meet Juan Miguel at any other neutral place in South Florida or elsewhere in Florida if necessary. And he says that concerning that meeting, Elián would be there and would meet immediately after that meeting. Elián would meet with his father, but only if he is guaranteed that after that meeting he would be allowed to come back to his family here in Miami. Otherwise, the child might be too afraid to attend that meeting. Let's go to part of the interview with Manny Diaz just a few minutes ago. Let's listen to him.
It is imperative that the family get together and talk about the situation and talk about what's happened in the last four and a half months. It is imperative that at that meeting it be strictly family, that there be no government intervention from either government, that there be no lawyers present, and no media present. Strictly a family matter.
So a lot of developments here within the past few minutes, but the situation remains the same. Elián is here, his father is in Washington, and there's still no agreement as to when or where the two will meet. The government's hand-picked mental health experts are back in Washington today, having left Miami empty-handed. After a one-hour meeting with Lázaro González, there is still no agreement as to how Elián will be handed over to his father.
Everything that they've done to date would lead you to think that they won't do this voluntarily.
Without a mutually agreed-on plan for a transfer of custody, the stage is set for a showdown. The Justice Department is expected to issue a demand letter telling Lázaro González when and where to turn over the child. And they're talking about it happening before the end of the week. And once the transfer occurs, Juan Miguel González is free to take Elián back to Cuba as soon as he wants. And that's why Lázaro González's attorneys are scrambling today, asking a family court judge to issue an emergency order barring Elián's removal from the U.S. until a custody hearing is held, and they can present evidence as to why they believe Elián's best interest is to stay here.
The one thing that has never been considered is the best interest of Elián González. And state courts are traditionally have the wisdom and expertise and the tools.
Last night, thousands of Cuban Americans again hit the streets near Elián's home to show their support. But with their legal options dwindling and the power of the federal government against them, the community is beginning to resign itself to the inevitable.
People would be very sad in this community, very upset. Our duty then is to make sure that they express themselves, but that it doesn't go violent in any way. A lot of demonstrations have taken place without any violence here, and we hope that we can continue that approach.
Meantime, the waiting game continues, and of course the big announcement here is that Lázaro González will be traveling to Washington tomorrow to meet with Janet Reno himself. For now, live in Little Havana, Ileana Varela, CBS 4 News.
All right, thank you. One person noticeably absent at Elián's Little Havana home has been his cousin and surrogate mother, Maris Lacy. She remains hospitalized for what the González family describes only as emotional anxiety. It seems this has happened several times before. The Miami Herald reporting that the 21-year-old has been hospitalized for stress 8 times since Elián was rescued at sea Thanksgiving Day.
While the wheels continue to churn in Washington, D.C. in the fight for Elián, South Florida is preparing for yet another vigil. There is a mass scheduled for Elián's mother and stepfather tonight at La Ermita de la Caridad in Coconut Grove. Both died trying to reach the U.S. back in November. The vigil is for 8 o'clock this evening. Everyone is being asked to take a white flower and a candle to the ceremony. And be sure to stay with CBS 4 News for any developments in the Elián González case. We will continue to bring you the very latest as it happens.
Now, South Florida families pleased to find their missing son have been answered, but with the worst possible.
And this is Brian Andrews live in Washington, D.C. 2 major developments tonight in the Elián González case. First, the Justice Department letter going out to the family. It's going out tomorrow, and we've learned it tells them to bring Elián to Opa-locka Airport Thursday to surrender him. Secondly, Janet Reno has now canceled her trip to Miami tomorrow. I'll have all the latest details in a live report from Washington straight ahead.
All right, Brian, we'll look forward to talking to you. I'm Rick Sanchez.
And I'm Lori Jennings. This is 7 News at 10.
Now,
live from the news station. This is 7 News at 10.
The night team is live in Little Havana, where tonight the family is on the verge of getting official instructions on how Elián González will be transferred into the custody of his father.
And the night team also in Coconut Grove tonight, where once again hundreds of people are praying for a miracle and praying for a mother whose dying wish, it seems, will not come true. Good evening again, everyone. We have confirmed at this point that the transfer of Elián González will take place Thursday at Opa-locka Airport, but the family will not get official notification of that until tomorrow.
This, as family members tell 7 News exclusively tonight that their resolve has not wavered and that they will do everything in their power to keep the boy, quote, from returning to Fidel Castro.
Let's get right out live now to start our night team coverage with Craig Stevens in Little Havana. Craig.
Well, time is clearly running out, as you would indicate. Still lawyers for the family. They're continuing efforts in the state and the federal court level. But as we've mentioned, the Justice Department is moving full steam ahead, finalizing plans to reunite father and son. Meanwhile, as we heard tonight, the family is not yet prepared to give up. Elián was all smiles in his family's front yard on a day of last-ditch efforts to stop what appears increasingly inevitable. The boy's uncle, eager for an audience with Attorney General Janet Reno, and she is reportedly mulling over a South Florida visit to meet with the family, perhaps Elián as well, though the likelihood this meeting might resolve anything appears slim. Justice officials insist a Reno meeting would not stop efforts to reunite the boy with his father. To that end, formal written notification to the family is expected at any time. And in a conversation with Rick Sanchez, Lázaro González says he's resolute, that the law is on his side, and that he's not prepared to give up. Exile leaders who've toned down promises of civil unrest in recent days wonder the point of any such meeting if Reno is not open to changing her mind. But
I think dialogue is the first step. Goodwill also is necessary, and if we are truly interested in and concerned about the well-being of Elián González, I think the best resolution for this conflict would be a family resolution.
the Miami family is anxious to keep this in the family. Lázaro González suggesting Tuesday Elián's father sit down with him and the boy at a neutral South Florida location, the home of Barry University's president, for example, site of the visit between the boy and his grandmothers. The family only seeks a guarantee Elián would not be whisked away, for them never to see him again. No indication of any such meeting that would involve Elián's father coming here, and as far as these late developments that we're just now learning of here at the González family home, that the Attorney General apparently will not be coming to South Florida, that may well be because of the problem outlined in the story there. The Attorney General is saying, look, I'll come down and sit down with you, but I'm not about to change my mind. And the Miami relatives saying they would want that meeting to be an opportunity to try to get through to Janet Reno to persuade them to their way of thinking. So we'll have to sample reaction here. Some additional members of the Exile leadership have arrived here at the location, and as we get any more information about this story, which is constantly changing, we'll get back with you. Right now we're live in Little Havana. Craig Stevens, 7 News Night Team.
All right, Craig, and from you, we're going to take it now to the night team's Brian Andrews. He is in our nation's capital.
Brian, let's get back to that major development there. Janet Reno canceling her trip to South Florida. How are you interpreting that from there?
Well, it's really unclear at this point. We just got this news about 10 minutes ago from the Justice Department. We're being told that for unspecified problems, the Attorney General will most likely not make the trip to Miami in the morning. And then we were told about the other development, which is the letter. The Miami family was supposed to receive a letter this evening from the Justice Department, a letter that Janet Reno had said herself that she wanted to get out tonight. However, the letter is in its final draft form, and we have learned tonight that it instructs Elián González's Miami family to surrender the child at Opa-locka Airport on Thursday morning.
The INS has used the Coast Guard Air Station at Opa-locka Airport before in the Elián González case. It was the location where Elián's grandmothers landed in South Florida on the day they visited with the boy at Sister Jean O'Loughlin's home in Miami Beach. Justice Department officials say Thursday morning at Opa-locka Airport is the time and place of the transfer of custody, according to a draft of the letter to be sent to the Miami family. Meantime, Justice Department officials say Attorney General Janet Reno would go to Miami to meet face-to-face with Elián's South Florida family, but that the meeting in Miami would not have any impact on the time and date and whereabouts of the custody transfer already in the works. On that issue, Washington Attorney Greg Craig, who represents Elián's father, met with Janet Reno at the Justice Department Monday afternoon. She also met with Miami-Dade Mayor Alex Pinellas and Miami Mayor Joe Carollo, who urged her to use her influence to bring both sides together for a private family meeting.
We all agreed that this is an issue really that should be decided between them, between family members. They should sit down at a table, they should see eye to eye, face to face, and discuss what's in the best interests of Elián González, and it should be them only.
Let the families decide between themselves without any outside interference, any outside pressure, no cash to security agents, says family.
Elián's father, Juan Miguel González, met with the Reverend Joan Brown Campbell, the former head of the National Council of Churches. She said that he's looking forward to having a hot dog with his son once they're reunited, and that he's very worried about his son while in the care of the Miami relatives.
He's very much responding like a father who will see his son soon, and he's not making grand plans. He wants very much to hold him. It's very frustrating to see his image on television and not be able to touch him, especially when he's so close.
And we understand that Juan Miguel also told the Reverend Joan Brown Campbell that in his opinion, based on what he's seen on television, that Elián looks thin. Now, we again are reporting tonight that Janet Reno has canceled her trip. This is according to Justice Department officials. She is highly unlikely going to travel to Miami tomorrow because of some unforeseen complications, problems, as Justice Department officials call them. And this letter that was supposed to go out tonight will most likely go out in the morning. And we are told that in the final draft, it does say and instructs the Miami family to turn over Elián to the INS at Opa-locka Airport on Thursday morning. So, Rick and Lori, it does appear that this thing is coming to a head rather quickly. We're live in Washington. I'm Brian Andrews, 7 News Night Team.
All right, you're reporting the transfer Thursday at Opa-locka Airport. Do we know at this point if that transfer will involve the boy's father? In other words, will Juan Miguel be flying to Opa-locka Airport?
Still unclear at this point, although in the past, Juan Miguel González has said that he believes the U.S. government should bring his son to him here in Washington. He's staying in Bethesda, and he has told several people that he would like his son delivered to him. He hasn't, though, ruled out the possibility of traveling to any city in the United States, as he said in the past, to have that reunion with Elián.
So the transfer could either happen in South Florida or in D.C., Brian, and now the family will only have, by the time they get that letter, about 24 hours notice.
Well, again, it would appear that the end game in this is still up in the air, whether Juan Miguel actually travels to Opa-locka for that reunion or whether this is merely a handoff of the child and the child is delivered here to Washington. We're just going to have to find out about that on Thursday.
Does anyone at Justice say tonight that they have indeed, or feel confident that they have enlisted the cooperation of the family in Miami? In other words, that they're going to go along with the plan?
No, we haven't heard that yet.
All right, 7's Brian Andrews with a lot of details for us. Thank you.
Well, while the family and Attorney General Janet Reno prepare for what could possibly still be a showdown, hundreds of supporters of the Miami family are praying both for Elián and for his mother, who died at sea. The Night Team's Jeff Begaze is live now with a special mass, we understand, was held tonight in Coconut Grove. Jeff?
Rick, this was yet another opportunity for Cuban exiles in the South Florida community to come together. There was hardly a seat in the church behind me. The church sanctuary was packed with people who came here to pray for Elián and his mother.
As a Cuban, it's my duty to show support for this boy.
It is standing room only at the Shrine of Our Lady Charity. Cuban exiles gathering in prayer for Elián González, his mother, and the countless others who've lost their lives trying to escape Cuba.
I'm also Pedro Pan.
Teresita Ayo is one who survived the escape as a child. She feels a special connection to 6-year-old Elián.
I am here to pray for Elián and to pray for his father. And I get emotional. I can't help it because I want his father to be here, to stay here and bring up that child in freedom. That's all we want.
It is something that is mentioned over and over again in prayers. This special service not only talks about the custody controversy, but also Elián's mother, Elizabeth Bertans, the woman who died on that doomed journey from Cuba.
I think that's the overwhelming point, that they're trying to make so many people trying to come over here for liberty, and it just can't be that easy just to send a child back like that.
And that is why Cuban exiles are here in large numbers. Much like on Monday night in Little Havana at a vigil there, many are hoping for divine intervention. As a reunion with Elián's father draws closer, that may be the only thing that could answer their prayers.
I think it's a first-degree felony to go ahead and just send this boy back just like that, because he's going to belong to the state.
The service here ended just a few minutes ago, and as those folks head home from the church sanctuary and hear the news that this is heading for a reunion on Thursday, it is clearly not the outcome that they were praying for here tonight. We're live in Coconut Grove. Jeff Pegues, 7 News 19.
All right, Jeff.
And clearly a pivotal week in the Elián González custody battle. Here is what we expect will be the next developments. The South Florida family now expecting to receive a letter from the Justice Department outlining the process of how they are to hand over the boy to Juan Miguel González. And that transfer, we have confirmed now, is set to take place on Thursday morning, the most likely location, Opa-locka Airport.
Also, U.S. Attorney General Janet Reno has canceled a planned trip to South Florida to meet with the family members here to discuss her concerns. Of course, you can keep it right here for the very latest developments. If anything happens throughout this newscast, we'll break in immediately, and we'll continue to follow the situation as the custody showdown comes to a head.
And a major story you saw earlier tonight on 7 News, a deadly crash on the Rickenbacker Causeway, and police calling it a possible case of drag racing. Tonight, they're on the lookout for a driver suspected of leaving that scene. And the night team's Diana Diaz is live from Jackson Memorial Hospital now, where one of the victims was taken, and she has the details from there. Diana?
That's right. This 21-year-old driver is in critical condition here at Jackson Memorial Hospital, surviving what police are calling a drag race that claimed the life of his passenger. The Rickenbacker Causeway reduced to one lane as investigators make sense of an afternoon accident witnesses say could have been avoided.
We had 2 cars, both Hondas, speeding along on the Rickenbacker Causeway at a pretty high rate of speed. It appeared to people looking on that they were possibly drag racing.
The alleged drag race heading westbound on the Rickenbacker when witnesses say this red Honda lost control, bouncing off a median wall and barreling across 3 lanes of traffic before slamming into a van pulled off on the side of the road.
We know that the other car, which is a 1992 to 94 metallic blue Honda of some sort, hatchback, stopped, came back, the passenger got out of the car, a woman, went back to check on the people in the red car to see if they were okay. When she determined that she could do nothing for them, she got back in her car and they sped away.
The 5 passengers in the van suffered only lacerations and bruises, but the passenger in the red Honda was killed. The driver of that car transported to the hospital in critical condition. The driver's aunt telling me 21-year-old Norman Vasquez underwent several hours of surgery, unable to talk about what happened and unsure if he knows his passenger is dead.
It seems like a senseless tragedy. It seems like speed and horseplay were the main factors here that caused someone to die.
And we are now getting late word that Miami police have located that blue Honda Civic they say left the scene of this crime. They are questioning a 27-year-old man but have not made any arrests, and they are also releasing the name of the victim that died in this accident. She is 17-year-old Fardia Estrada. Live in Miami, Diana Diaz, 7 News 19.
All right, Diana, here's another story we're following tonight. Flames shooting through the roof, leaving an elderly South Florida couple homeless. Fire breaking out along 1700 Northwest 16th Avenue. That's in Pompano Beach this afternoon. It started in a main hallway and then quickly spread. The couple's daughter arriving to see her parents' home of 40 years engulfed in flames.
First thing I did was ran to look for my mother and my father to make sure that they were out of the house and was okay. It can always be worse. They could have been bringing bodies out of the house. and that was what I was grateful for.
Luckily, her parents were already outside when they smelled the smoke. Officials say an electrical problem is to blame.
And now to a story you'll see on just one station. 2 men busted for illegally catching lobsters out of season in South Florida. The men accused of hooking and steering lobsters off the Rickenbacker Causeway, both methods prohibited. Officers say the men caught more than 100 lobsters. And these men have now been arrested. They're facing several charges, including illegal harvesting. Lobster mini season starts in July. And a terrifying day on the job for a South Florida trucker as he's hijacked and taken hostage. The trucker discovered tied up and screaming for help late this afternoon in Wilton Manors. Police say 2 armed suspects dumped the trucker outside a drugstore after stealing his truck yesterday right along I-95, and also stolen all the designer clothing inside his truck. The vehicle was later found, cleaned out in Palm Beach County. Police are certainly on the search for those suspects.
Tonight, police say they're on the lookout for a dangerous South Florida inmate who is now on the loose. Officials say the 36-year-old Timothy Jackson escaped from Miami-Dade County Correctional Institute, hidden inside some delivery vehicle. The prison is located just outside of Florida City. Jackson was serving a life sentence for armed robbery, assaults, armed burglaries, and kidnapping. Residents who live nearby say they are now terrified.
Scary. It's really scary, and I stay with my grandmother, and she told us to keep the doors locked, and we're staying close to home, so we won't have to bump into him.
Jackson has escaped from 2 county jails before and was supposed to be under close supervision. He's considered armed and dangerous. In fact, we are told he's considered extremely dangerous. So if you see him, stay away, is what police are saying. Definitely call police or Crime Stoppers immediately at 305-471-TIPS.
And we have breaking news now in the Elián González custody case that could involve the young boy going to Washington, D.C.
Craig Stevens is joining us now with the very latest on this. I imagine it would involve Lazaro as well, his great uncle?
From what a source is telling us at this hour, and this all has something to do with why Attorney General Janet Reno is not coming to South Florida tomorrow. A source close to the family is telling us at this hour that Lazaro González, Mary Lacis González, and Elián will travel to Washington tomorrow for what is being described as a family summit. We are expecting in the next several minutes from Washington a member of Congress, Senator Bob Torricelli from New Jersey, to announce the details of it. Still being worked up, but we understand at this hour the reason the Attorney General will not be traveling here is because the Miami family, a couple of them with Elián in tow, will travel to Washington tomorrow for a family summit. The family had wanted this for some time, an opportunity to be away from the lawyers, to be away from the spokespeople and whatnot, and to sit down as a family and talk about what is best for this little boy. Do not know who specifically will be in attendance at this event, but we can tell you, according to a source, it is slated to happen tomorrow in Washington.
You used the word family summit. Would it be safe to assume, given the usage of that word, that it may involve Juan Miguel as well, the boy's father?
Pardon me if I neglected to mention that. Of course, that is the most central part of this. It is to include the father, and that the first time these 2 sides of the family will come together face to face to talk about the welfare and the future of this little boy.
We might be able to get more information on this if we go to Washington. I don't know. Do we have an opportunity to take you to Washington now?
Yes, there's Brian Andrews for us right there. Brian, it would be wonderful if the 2 sides could be there alone, truly alone, but it's hard to imagine that the father wouldn't be with other government officials.
Unclear at this point, but as Craig had just reported, we're now hearing and getting confirmation. Cuban American National Foundation is telling us that Maris Lacis, Lazaro, and Elián González are coming to Washington to meet with Juan Miguel González here in the D.C. area tomorrow. I'm also being told right now that in exactly 7 minutes, there's going to be a news conference by the Cuban American National Foundation to make that announcement here on Capitol Hill, and we are efforting to bring that tape to you right away as soon as it happens. This latest announcement may explain some of the activity we saw outside the home in Bethesda, Maryland tonight. About 90 minutes ago, we saw the attorney for Juan Miguel González, Elián's dad, Greg Craig, show up with an entourage and run into the house. And as far as we know right now, they're still in the house having a meeting. Presumably, they may know about this visit, a visit that is a rather shocking development with the Miami family and Elián coming here to our nation's capital.
As you know, Robert Torricelli is a vocal Castro critic. He's also got some very close ties to the Cuban American National Foundations. Was he the deal breaker on this thing tonight? Do we know?
Not sure yet. As I said, we're going to find out in a few moments. We've just sent a crew down to the 400 North Capitol spot for the news conference, and we're expecting to hear not only from the Cuban American National Foundation, but as well as some members of Congress, perhaps that representative.
The reason that would be important is because Robert Torricelli's a Democrat, and he does have close ties with the Clinton administration, unlike many of the Republicans who've been arguing on the other side of this case, Brian. We will continue to follow the story, obviously, and as we get more information, we are going to bring it for you. But the very latest, as you just heard, there is a possibility that all parts of the family will be getting tomorrow in Washington, D.C.
Big developments, and we have a lot more coming your way tonight from the night team, including a massive wildfire burning in the Florida Everglades. We're talking 10,000 acres already scorched, another 10,000 at risk. More details ahead.
Also, some raging floodwaters have been tearing apart homes, the devastation turning deadly. We're going to have that story coming up.
And trouble on the tracks in one part of Florida, the cargo, brand new cars. Details on this ahead.
An elderly South Florida woman dependent on her dog to get around, but her
and details of the handover are finalized.
Tonight, the reunion between a father and son, separated by politics and fear, could happen within days. We have live team coverage.
A major break in a deadly drag racing accident. We're live with the latest.
A man found gagged and bound behind a popular discount store. Tonight, the search is on for whoever put him there.
A plane crashes right into a house.
And fire crews rushing to the rescue, trying to save a trapped horse.
Good evening, I'm Jennifer Gould in for Angela Ray.
I'm Steve Wolford. CBS 4 News tonight, right here, right now.
Now, live, this is CBS 4 News at 11.
A live picture tonight outside the home of Elián González in Little Havana, where preparations are reportedly underway tonight for Elián, his cousin, and great uncle to travel to Washington, D.C. tomorrow.
That late word breaking within the past hour, and it is a major development in this long-running custody battle.
That critical journey happening in place of a planned trip to South Florida tomorrow by Attorney General Janet Reno. We have live CBS 4 team coverage tonight with the latest developments. Let's start at the epicenter. CBS 4's Evan Bacon is joining us live in Little Havana. Evan.
Steve, we are breathless. We have had three major developments within the last hour. This latest one coming just seconds ago. We understand there is an agreement on a meeting between Juan Miguel González, his Lázaro González, who is his uncle, Marilesius, and Elián, all scheduled to meet soon. We are also hearing that Janet Reno is not coming to Miami, as we heard earlier in the day. Obviously, these events are coming after this latest announcement that the whole family is potentially meeting. We're also hearing that Elián, Marilesius, and Lázaro González are going to Washington tomorrow for a meeting with the Attorney General at noon. That source, the Cuban American National Foundation. Meanwhile, another development tonight. The Justice Department has temporarily stopped the delivery of that critical letter, the letter outlining the transfer of Elián to his father's custody. CBS 4 has learned the government will move to reunite Elián with his father on Thursday. A source inside INS tells us the official letter from the Justice Department will propose several neutral sites for the transfer. We have confirmed one of those sites to be the Coast Guard Air Station at Opa-locka.
Hey, folks.
Miami's two mayors just back from Washington thought they had a commitment from Attorney General Janet Reno to come visit the Miami Gonzálezes.
I truly believe that the Attorney General will not be taking any steps on taking the boy until she meets with Lázaro González and his family.
She hasn't met with Marilesius, she hasn't met with Delphine, and I think out of fairness, if nothing else, give these people an opportunity to look her in the eyes and tell them what they feel.
But we checked with the Justice Department and they tell us Reno has no plans to come to Miami. The mayors made a second request to the Attorney General, allow both sides of the González family to meet each other as soon as possible.
Lázaro is today stating very emphatically that he is very much in favor of that meeting taking place.
Lázaro González wants a face-to-face with his nephew, Elián's father, before the government takes any further action.
It is imperative that at that meeting it be strictly family, that there be no government intervention from either government, that there be no lawyers present and no media present, strictly a family matter.
Once again, the big news tonight, the U.S. family is heading up to Washington tomorrow. An agreement has been reached for a meeting between Elián, his dad, his great uncle Lázaro González, and Marilesis González. Their whole contingent is going up tomorrow. One other note, a legal move has been made here in Miami by Lázaro González's attorneys. They filed a legal brief earlier in the day through all this in family court, asking to bar Elián's return to Cuba. The attorneys question the father's parental fitness. They claim he has exhibited abusive conduct on his part, and they also say if Elián goes back, he will in effect be mentally brainwashed by the Cuban government. So these fighting words in the legal community, while this meeting is set tomorrow in Washington, we'll have to see how this all plays out. We're live right now in Little Havana. Evan Bacon, CBS 4 News Tonight.
And from Little Havana, our live team coverage continues now with Julie Auclair in Washington, D.C., where Elián's father is anxiously awaiting his son. Julie.
Well, Jennifer, again, the Cuban-American National Foundation has confirmed that Lázaro, Marilesis, and Elián will be traveling here to Washington tomorrow. They will be meeting with Janet Reno and Juan Miguel González at noon. Now, Juan Miguel spent the day meeting with his attorney and Joan Brown Campbell about how Elián should be transferred. Juan Miguel González holds his baby boy Iani while meeting with officials at the Cuban Interest Section discussing the transfer of custody of his son Elián. Then a full day of talks and meetings continues with a stop to speak with attorney Greg Craig. Craig says Juan Miguel feels the transfer of Elián must happen quickly, and he hopes it doesn't come down to using marshals.
He would be disappointed that it would have to be done. But Juan Miguel's view of this is that the earlier that he is united with his son, the better.
Craig meeting later with Attorney General Janet Reno to talk about the transition of Elián to his father and the possibility of the families meeting to discuss what's in Elián's best interest.
The power to make this transfer better rather than worse is in the hands of Lázaro, not in the hands of Juan Miguel. And Lázaro has got to take the boy by the hand and say, Elián, we're going to see your father. Come on along. And when that happens, then anything is possible in terms of the family.
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, Elián's great-uncle Delphine, fisherman Donato Dalrymple, and members of the Cuban-American National Foundation meeting with senators to push for legislation, a last-ditch effort that would make Juan Miguel González a permanent resident. Then, back in Bethesda, Maryland, Juan Miguel sitting down with Joan Brown Campbell of the National Council of Churches, who was instrumental in bringing Elián's grandmothers here from Cuba. She says Juan Miguel has no plans to meet with the Miami relatives until Elián is in his custody.
He feels that until such time as he has Elián, it's not helpful to have that meeting. They are filing lawsuits even as they are asking to meet with him. And I think his feeling is that once he has his son, then the adults can deal with their relationships.
And again, that meeting will be taking place tomorrow at noon between the Miami relatives and Janet Reno. Also, Juan Miguel will be there. Now, the federal government has temporarily put off sending the letter to the Miami family about how the transfer was to take place on Thursday. And we will be here all day tomorrow in Washington to bring you the very latest. For now, we're live on Capitol Hill. Julie Auclair, CBS 4 News Tonight.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Hundreds of people turn out for a memorial mass tonight for Elián's mother. It was held tonight at Our Lady of Charity Catholic Church in Miami. The prayers tonight for the woman who lost her life trying to reach the U.S. and for Elián, who survived the journey.
Also today, Elián got a visit from his classmates at Lincoln Marti School. Students went to Little Havana with a large card that said they love and miss him. Elián had attended Lincoln Marti before his family pulled him out of class for safety reasons to tutor him at home.
So very quickly, here's the bottom line tonight. Once again, major new developments. Elián's Miami family is traveling tomorrow to Washington, D.C. to meet with Elián's father, Juan Miguel González. Also, that's happening as Attorney General Janet Reno cancels her planned trip to Miami. The CBS 4 News team will be in place tomorrow for the very latest developments, so stay with us through the day for continuing coverage on the fight for Elián.
In other news tonight,
to come here. Now, this morning's movement comes as officials wait to see if Elián's father and his Miami relatives are able to work out some sort of reunion plan of their own.
Elián's great-uncle Lázaro González had suggested the nun's house as a neutral location for a possible family meeting. This morning, an attorney representing the Miami relatives claiming that Elián is afraid to go to Washington and see his father. The lawyer says Elián desperately wants to remain with his cousin Maris Laces. You're looking at live pictures right now as the meeting continues at Sister Jean's house. We will have more details as they become available. Stay tuned for CBS 4 News, where the fight for Elián continues.
Leaving Washington, D.C. shortly, headed here for Miami. She is possibly expected here by 4 o'clock this afternoon. This comes
catastrophic global warming. PBS's premier science and investigative series join forces to investigate the truth about global warming. A Nova Frontline special report.
Tuesday at 9 on Channel 2.
From bullfighting to deep-sea fishing, join intrepid goofball Michael Palin as he follows in the footsteps of one of our greatest authors. Michael Palin's Hemingway Adventure, coming next month on Channel 2.
WPBT gratefully acknowledges the valuable contributions of the members of our Chairman's Club.